Big Branch Warren, all the way from Texas. Branch, your Arnold Classic champion, former first Olympia runner-up, Branch Warren. We got the real deal, Chris Cormier, four-time Ironman champion, six-time first runner-up at the Arnold Classic and the legendary trainer. We got Skip LaCour, five-time natural Mr. Universe, Team Universe champion, local boy from Northern California. Who else are we missing? Missing anybody? Is this it? Oh, we got Hany Rambod, the procreator. He's not sure, I'm totally missing. The procreator, trainer of champions from Sacramento. San Jose. You're from San Jose? I think you live in Sacramento. That's where I saw you last. And the owner of Evil Gym. I'm your host, Shawn Ray. And I've been around for a long time. Got started back in 1983. My first pro experiences were way back in 1988. And these guys, they all came up behind me. I won the Mr. California in 1987 when I was 21. Chris Cormier over there won the teenage version of the Mr. California on the same day. So we all have some history coming up in the game. I'm going to start off with Mr. Kris Dim. Chris, you're locally, huh? Aren't you this way?
Yeah, Sacramento.
Sacramento. Kris Dim won the Mr. USA Championships. Did you compete in the Masters also? Make a comeback? Okay, well, clearly you got a different kind of a ride here. You got a very interesting story because you did come back last year. Competed in the wheelchair championships at the Olympia, which was the first of its kind. But give us a little bit of background about how you came into the sport and where you're at today.
Same as you. I won the Mr. California at 21 also. But it took my journey a lot longer than everyone else. It took me until I was 30 years old before I got my pro card. And I won the USA and I won the national, got my pro card there. And then basically competed at San Francisco. Back then, top 3 qualified for Olympia. And I did the San Francisco Pro, qualified for the Mr. Olympia. And that was right away. But the journey took a long time to get my pro card. But when I did get my pro card, it went extremely fast.
We'll get back to a little bit more of your story. The Big Branch Warren, you're no stranger to the game. A teenage national champion, won a number of competitions. I remember seeing a show over in England that you won. You won over there at the Europa, Texas, I believe. A couple of Arnold Classics. Obviously, you were knocking out the door and chomping at the heels of Jay Cutler for that Olympia title. And it's been a few years now that you're off the stage. Your father, you've got a very successful business. Tell us a little bit about your journey into the sport of bodybuilding.
You know, I started competing when I was a teenager in high school, and I got into training because I wanted to play football, and everything else helps you be a better football player. But I met a bodybuilder, and when I was a teenager, he took me to a local show, and he goes, "Hey, you think about competing?" And I said, "Yeah, I could do that." So he said, "I'm going to take you to a real gym." So Monday morning, he came and picked me up, and we went across town, and we pulled up this gym, and music was so loud you could hear it in the parking lot. And he introduced me to the owner, and he said, "Hey, this is this kid I was telling you about. He wants to compete at a show at the end of the summer." And I said, "I don't have any, can't afford a membership." I said, "I'll, clean the gym up, take the trash out, trade out, so I can train here all summer and do the show." He said, "Let me see what you look like." So I took my shirt off, did a couple poses. He said, "I'll tell you what, kid." He said, "You represent the gym, and you win, you don't got to buy a membership. If you lose, you're going to work it off." Well, that was 27 years ago, and I still haven't bought a membership. So the owner, that was Metroflex Gym, and this guy who introduced me to Brian and Metroflex was Ronnie Coleman's workout partner. And I trained with those guys for my first show, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it was. And you actually competed against Jay Cutler in the Teenage Nationals, I believe, didn't you?
Yeah, way back in 1993. He was a heavyweight, I was a light heavyweight. We both won our classes, and I won the overall. I would have traded that one for 2,000 pounds, though.
Yeah, I hear you. And Chris Cormier, you're no stranger to the teenage scene also. You got started out of Palm Springs, I believe. You got started when you were 16 or 17 years old when you first got introduced to bodybuilding?
Introduced at 16 years old, but I actually got ready for the show, but I chickened out because I was too shy to go up on stage.
But you're still shy, but here you are.
I'm still here.
Some 30 years later.
Yeah. But then I actually did it the very next year at 17. But I got started by a high school teacher thought I should try bodybuilding. and she thought I had a good body for it, and just to go check it out. So once I went to go check it out, I saw Mike Christian, who just won the Mr. California at the time, and that was 1984. And once I saw him on stage, I was like, man, I want to try this, I want to do this. So I actually did it next year, and yeah, I won the Teenage California Teenage Nationals in my class. And then I went on to going to the Nationals 91 and won the USA 93.
And then you wound up in the Mr. Olympia Championships, and the rest was history. You actually, when you retired, you almost won like 20 some odd pro shows. Do you know how many shows you won before you quit?
It was around 12.
Okay. But they were all on different continents. You were winning over in Australia and all these other places. And
Right.
you were coming up behind Flex Wheeler and Kevin Lebroni and all those other guys. We'll get to that. Skip, you took a different route. You're 5-time natural universe champion. Did you get started as a teenager?
I did at 27, actually.
A late start. So tell us about your journey into bodybuilding.
Well, I was local. Mr. Fremont was my first contest, if you know that. That's a show that Ed Corney won. He was the first Mr. Fremont winner. And actually, I was working in a grocery store, and I had been training 13 months, and I entered that show. And I didn't know anything about bodybuilding, and when I was working in the grocery store, people would be whispering on the next out, that's Mr. Fremont, that's Mr. Fremont, right? So I said, this bodybuilding thing, I think I might like that. I put my head down. It was when things changed. Steroids became a controlled substance. The owner of a gym that I went to, he was actually in trouble. So it kind of started me on just a different way of looking at it right from the beginning. There was the AAU became popular first, and they had drug testing contests. So I was new. The competition wasn't as stiff. And you know, if you get off to a good start, you'll continue doing it. If you come in 5th place, or you won't. And then the NPC came in with Iron Man Naturally, and then the Team Universe, and I got to represent the United States. So it's just perfect timing for me.
You had a very good run. As a matter of fact, Skip made my very first website. When was that?
1999.
Yeah. Brought me into the digital age.
Yeah, that was a good time. It was so great for me to hang around all the big guys where, you know, I was like the little fish. Got to
travel a little bit, do some seminars, got some magazine covers out of it.
No, it was great. Iron Man was, they really helped me out. So
personification of you're never too old to start. You started late and you had a great run. Hany, one of the common themes here, you trained a lot of great bodybuilders, several Olympia winners, is that these guys, they didn't have any idea how good they were. It sounded like it took someone else to tell them that they had the potential or that they could be good. You've got an eye for that. There's guys that are already good that come to you, and there are guys just barely starting out. What's the common theme that you find dealing with a bodybuilder that has these aspirations to be great one day when you see them kind of first starting out?
You know, everybody's a little bit different, and obviously I came up in the era of Chris, following Flex, back when I was getting ready for shows, and I would travel from where I was going to school in UC Santa Barbara, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I think one of the shows we ended up doing one of the shows together. Yeah, one of the Iron Man Naturals, actually. Yeah, so, and actually the next one, I think Jerome Ferguson won, and he let the dogs out. But all that being said, the commonality and the theme is the fact that for them to be champions, they have to take their bodies to where nobody else is willing to take it. And some people have a little bit better genetics structurally, you know, the Flex Wheelers and the Chris's of the world, yourself, and then the guys like, you know, Branch Warren, who's sitting my bigger twin over there. Some people go, Branch! And I'm like, no, dude, Branch is still huge. What was that? Not near this handsome. But you know, the crazy thing about it is, you know, and people always say, hey, you have to look like Chris or like Flex to be able to do well at the Olympia. And the first person I actually mentioned is Branch, and you know, not because he's here, because there's a lot of times we're not in the same place, and I'll be in Dubai, and whatever he lacks in quote unquote shape, he makes up with hard work and builds on his strengths, which is muscle density and condition, and he brings that nastiness that, you know, brings him into the top placings at the Olympia. So what you gotta do is you gotta take yourself to that whole other level to be able to get to the level these guys have been at.
Is it fair that a lot of people, when they start, they look in the magazines or now they're looking online, and they really see the end result of the years of hard work and think, I can never look like this guy. But in actuality, when we all started out, we were looking at guys ahead of us going, we could never look like that. It's a matter of consistency and believing in the work. I know that when you refer to Branch not being genetically gifted, you got a guy before him named Rich Gaspard. The guy before him, Dorian Yates. I mean, Dorian Yates did not have a bodybuilder's physique when he started. So I think over time, once you find that niche and figure out how to get there, it's possible for anybody, even at a late start, as Skip was alluding to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tenacity, right? It's a tenacity. His niche genetically is being able to do the things in the gym that everybody else wasn't able to do. Right, right. And we all heard stories of how Flex could have won the Olympia if he didn't find the Wendy's wrappers underneath his car.
Yeah.
And Chris can talk about that. You know, Chris, how many times did you hear about Flex cheating on his diet? Right? Firsthand, right? And at the end of the day, I guarantee you right now, that man at the end of the corner right there, you know, Branch Warren will not turn around and do anything that's detrimental to his program, because he's going to make up for it with hard work and make sure that he's going to cross his T's and dot his I's. So that's what it really comes down to. That's why guys who have quote unquote lesser genetics beat the other guys.
Yeah, they say it's hard to get up to go to work when you sleep on silk sheets, right? Sometimes you got to come from nothing to become something. And Branch, you were talking about the hard work. That gym you're talking about, Metroflex, it not only created you, but Ronnie Coleman and also Johnny Jackson. All three of you guys literally could have been world-class power lifters. How did that play into your bodybuilding approach? Because I never really lifted the heavy weights. I kind of used the weights as tools to kind of shape and sculpt. But you guys were like murdering the weights.
You know, when I started off, I did powerlifting. All through my teenage years, if I wasn't training for bodybuilding competition, I trained for powerlifting competition. And then when I went to school, I worked 3 jobs to get through school, and I didn't bodybuild during those years because there was no way I was gonna maintain my grades, maintain 3 jobs, support myself, and prepare for competition. So I got into powerlifting, you know, for several years, and it turned out to be a blessing because, you know, doing that power bodybuilding, powerlifting style training, it really built that thick, dense muscle that I was known for. Right on career. Yeah.
How many most muscular awards did you win at the Arnold Classic? 6. How many times you placed second place in the Arnold Classic? I'm just reminding you, this guy's the only guy to get 6 first runner-ups at the Arnold Classic. We got to give it up for him. He thinks I'm taking a jab at him. It's hard to win that show, but you did get 6 first runner-ups, 6 most muscular awards. Kris Dim, speaking of muscles, when you were training, did you train heavy? Or were you a guy kind of like myself that trained for more shape and aesthetics?
When I started off, when I won the USA, I started training heavy. But later on, I don't know if you guys know my story, I had an aortic dissection. So after my aortic dissection, I couldn't train heavy anymore. So it's more volume training, time and attention, and really making that weight go heavy when it's not.
You came up as a middleweight or light heavyweight?
I came off as a middleweight, and then they told me I needed to stay in the middleweight class at the national, and I couldn't make weight anymore, so I didn't care. I went to light heavy, and from light heavy I took basically 6, and then I stayed in that light heavy weight class until I got my pro card, and 96 pounds at the national.
I saw some stuff on your YouTube channel about the aortic, what's it called?
The aortic dissection.
Tell them a little bit about that. That's how you wound up here.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys know my story. Basically, back in 2007, I had an aortic dissection. The main artery that's connected to the heart, it burst. So 95% of the people won't survive through that at all. I don't know what happened with me. I think it's God's will that I'm still here on this earth. But the rest of my aorta started to expand also, so I started getting the rest of it fixed. So all my aorta is pretty much done. But the last one, they put a stent in, and it didn't hold up. The blood flow went around the stent instead of through the stent. So what they did was they did an emergency cut from the back of my shoulder blade, through my rib cage, all the way to the front of my stomach, opened me up sideways to lay me. And they took the stent out and fixed me. 15 hours later when I woke up with a spinal cord injury.
So with that being said, the average person probably would have quit, but maybe with your bodybuilding fortitude, you decided to make a comeback.
Yeah, you know, Nick Scott, the promoter of the wheelchair division, he kept bugging me. I kept telling him, no, I'm not doing that. then finally, he invited me to the first wheelchair Olympia last year, 2018, and I presented some trophies, and that's when I got a bug. I said, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself because I realized how hard it is to try to work out when you're in a wheelchair. You guys got to remember, it's hard to get into those machines because you're not walking. So, I mean, the blessing that I have is I got that girl sitting right there. She's my backbone because when I get to the gym, she's with me every single time, lifting up my legs, doing what I can to be able to train. But I came back in 2008, actually this year, back in March, and I did my first wheelchair Arnold Classic, and I took second the first time out. So now, the bug is to get better, so I'm 7 weeks out from the wheelchair Mr. Olympia that's coming up in September 14th.
All right, Kris Dim story, where can we see that, on YouTube, or where's it at, your website?
YouTube.
All right. All right, so you guys are here to ask questions. There's the open mic. These guys are the experts. They'll answer anything you have for them. Now is the time. Back in the days, you used to have to write into a magazine and wait 3 months for a response. Now you can go to their Instagram and maybe get a response, but here they are, and the microphone's open to answer any questions on training, diet, competition, what party Kris is gonna be at tonight. Anybody? Everybody's shy? You gotta go to the open mic. That's why it's there. Here we are waving like this. one of your boys. Kris, before this is over, we're gonna have a pose down. You guys like to see a pose down with Chris Cormier? Kris inspires me every time I see him.
I have
Go ahead,
a
Ms. Hester.
question.
Yes.
So this is for Chris Cormier.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. So I was just wondering, historically, how many times is it that you've beaten Shawn Ray?
Well,
Wow.
I'm the one that put Shawn in retirement. Let me tell you a little story.
Oh, not this.
I have it on my Instagram. You follow _Chris Cormier. You see a nice shot of me and Shawn. He's actually my son, and he calls me Papa. So I said, Shawn, when we were in high school, I went to his high school at Eldorado High to do a wrestling tournament.
Kris is 2 years under me. Go ahead.
But in the same grade. Thanks, Shawn. We graduated the same year.
Oh, yeah. I'm listening.
84.
This is changing every time.
Okay, thank you. And so I saw him on the bench. And I was like, yo, that's Shawn Ray right there. He was, at the time, he was a perennial teenage champion, Mr. World, everything, from a very young age. So I was inspired by that. We got in touch and we started hanging out as teenagers. But he always told me, I'm never gonna beat you. You're never gonna beat me. You're never gonna beat me.
That is a true story.
Don't even try it. And then he'd call me and badger me.
That was in 1984.
Then he'd call me in the morning, almost every morning to train. And he's like, early bird catches the worm. I'm like, I sleep in my eyes. I'm like up late every night. And this guy is like, we started to train at one time. I showed him a few things, helped him try to get some of his weak body parts up. And then he eventually saw that I was going to surpass him. So
I saw that, Kris, eventually. He turned pro in 1993. I'd already been third in the Olympia in 1990. Won the Arnold Classic in 91. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Kind of my story, but anyway. And so then when I finally beat him,
1999. We're in 1999. A decade later.
But granted, the judges would never put me next to him until they finally did when they saw how much he lacked in stature.
Here we go.
Next to me, and lacked in every body part next to me. Then they're like, oh, switch places.
Okay.
Put Shawn in fifth, put Kris in third.
All right, have a seat.
And that would happen. That's what happened.
That's what
Anyway,
happened.
That's my story.
That's his story.
And then he retired shortly after.
Not
and then
shortly
there he
after.
is.
It was
And then there he is.
1999. So we still had 2000 and 2001 where you were
The
still
Widowmaker.
you were still leaving the stage before me, but
the
nonetheless,
Widowmaker.
I've accepted you
Anyway.
into the fraternity.
Anyway.
I forgive you.
Anyway.
You did get that one win. Congratulations.
Dug up his grave.
I actually had Kris in third that year.
And then he came back.
Or no, I had you in second that year.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, I was second. That's what
No, you were third. You should have been second.
You see Pet Cemetery? That's why he's even here. He just came back.
Branch, let's talk about how many times you beat Chris Cormier. What's it like beating Chris Cormier? He calls himself a legend because he hangs out with one. But how was it when Chris was like standing there and you heard his name in 5th place, Chris Cormier? No, you had a really close bite at the apple. You were second in the Olympia. You said in 2009? No, not 9. 2009. And it was you and Jay Cutler. Chris has never been in this position before, but we were there before, standing in 2nd place. It was just you and Mr. Olympia. When it came down to it, did you think they might call your name? And what did it feel like right before they announced you in 2nd?
You know, man, that was the year I had won several shows at that point, got second at the Arnold, but you know, that was my breakout year when things really took off. And you know, going into that show, I had no idea. I came from the back of the pack. You know, 2008, I had an injury. I didn't compete. 2007, I didn't have I think I was 10th place or something. And it was on my 2nd Olympia. And so going back, I think it was my 3rd Olympia, 2009, I had no idea. I knew I was really good. I knew I was the best I'd ever been, but I had no idea. I knew I was going to be in the top 5 somewhere, but I realistically didn't know where. And they started announcing the placings, you know, 6th, 5th, 4th. And then Dexter was a reigning Mr. Olympia. He'd beaten Jay the year before. And then they announced Dexter in 3rd place. And I'm like, I remember thinking to myself, oh shit, I just beat Mr. Olympia. And then, you know, from that moment, it was the first time I thought, man, maybe I can actually win this thing. And, you know, Jay came back, I think, at his all-time best that year. Of his whole career, I think 2009 was his best because, you know, he got beat the year before by Dexter, and I know he wanted to get that title back. And so I didn't know, you know, you're sitting there, and I remember it was the longest few minutes of my life because, you know, Bob Chickarilla, the MC, remember he was announcing the placings, and he says, and the new Mr. Olympia, and I'm thinking, I looked because I'm thinking, you know, Jay had already been Mr. Olympia. So I'm thinking, damn, did I actually pull this off? And then there was Jay in 1st place. And as you know, 2nd place to Mr. Olympia is the most bittersweet placing in bodybuilding. You know, I remember I got back to my room, I didn't know whether I wanted to jump up and down or punch a hole in the wall.
That was your largest prize money in that 2nd place, correct?
Now the Arnold was bigger. Arnold was bigger, but I think Arnold was pretty nice little chunk bigger, but it wasn't.
Has it haunted you? I mean, have you played that over and over, or you kind of just put it in your rearview?
No, not at all, man. If you give 100% and you know you did everything you can do, you got no regrets. So I did everything I could do, man, and you know, I had a great career for 15 years. I got to travel the world, live my dream, and I won everything in the world except for the Olympia, so I had a blast.
Nice job. A feeling that Chris will never experience. Skip, let's get to you. Mike. So he got 2nd place in the world. He says it was bittersweet. You were on a different journey, like you said. Did you have aspirations to like join the IFBB and compete on the pro stage?
You know, at the beginning, I just loved bodybuilding so much, and I admire you guys so much, and so I entertained it. It just wasn't practical, and because at that time, you know, I was able to be in the magazines with you guys, and you know, I'd be invited to do seminars with you guys. So I just had this really small route that I was getting rewarded for as much as I could. So I got everything.
Well, you became like a life coach. You found your niche. You became a life coach. You were doing other things for other bodybuilders that they weren't cerebrally ready to take on, but you were.
Yeah, and even today, you know, I just turned 57 years old.
When?
On Thursday, right? Yeah. So
2 years older than you.
You know, so it's interesting how everything all came around because the men who I work with, Jesse out there, they had no idea. No,
He's over there.
He was someone I work with now, right?
He's born into a guy. That's your wife?
No.
What?
Just what bodybuilding has done and what I've been able to do. Because they know all you guys, but they didn't know I was a bodybuilder, right? And so just how everything just worked out. I made it work out that way. But I got to hang out with you guys. I got to go to the expos and things like that. So even doing that way, I got a lot out of it.
Nice job. Okay, what do we got over here? Go ahead. Speak into the mic.
Hey guys, my name is Miguel. I'm a complete beginner. This is my first time at a Fit Expo. I had a quick question, something that all of you guys might actually relate to. and it's on eating, which is basically dieting or supplement use, whatever you ingest. My biggest question is, considering your guys' expertise and amount of knowledge, the amount of history you guys have being at the gym or taking supplements or testing out different products or even diets, what is something that you guys can tell me as the number one thing that actually enhanced your ability to be okay with what you consume?
You want them to answer what's the most important thing that you can consume?
Yeah, like the just one tip. One tip for the optimum diet, or the best thing that you thought was either good for you or beneficial towards exercising at the gym.
All right, we'll start with Chris, since he looks like he never misses a meal. You got a microphone for this guy? Chris, what's the number one thing that you like to ingest? I'm assuming it's food, probably fattening food, but why don't you enlighten us? The number one thing you like to ingest, besides oxygen?
One thing when I was just starting to try to build muscle, once I learned the importance of protein and protein, making sure that each meal has some type of protein source. Once that happened, then my muscles start to react. That's when, it helps you rebuild your, when you break down the muscle in the gym, that helps the muscle rebuild amino acids,
Okay, there's one thing, Chris, one thing. It's a 1 hour show. Protein, right? Give me that. What about you?
What I would say is food. And think more generally. You ask a question, you said, what is optimum? And I'll tell you, when you go into this space and you ask that question, you'll get a lot of different answers of what's optimum. You don't need to be optimum. And they're going to debate like this is a 10 out of 10, right? You don't need a 10 out of 10. If you move forward a 7, 8, 9 out of 10, so to speak, it will get you there. If you're always looking for optimum, you're never going to find a consensus and you're going to be confused. Eat, train hard, eat some more, train harder, be consistent.
Be consistent. Be consistent with your nutrition, man. If you're trying to be a bodybuilder, I would say at least 75% is nutrition. It doesn't matter how hard you train in the gym, if you don't have your nutrition right, you're never going to see the results you want. So like Chris said, protein is essential. You don't need protein, you can't build muscle.
I don't think you want to generalize anything, because as long as you have all these different sources, you want to kind of experiment with them. That's what they're there for, just like going in the gym. There's not one exercise they go in the gym to do. There's multiple things and different ways to approach it, so use variety. Absolutely. Next question? Anybody else got another question for us up here?
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Make sure you visit ChrisCormier.com for all the other free answers. Hany charges money on his site. Yes, sir.
Yes, I was wondering what are the biggest changes for prep, contest prep between since the 90s from now bodybuilding.
Let's ask the contest guru here himself, the pro creator. The biggest difference is from 90s?
Yeah.
90s till now?
Yeah.
The guys that I was coaching in the 90s were all state level guys. I didn't start, my first client that turned pro was Quincy Taylor in 2001 USA. And I worked with Melvin, and I think it was like 2000 when he placed 10th.
First, let's quantify Quincy Taylor. He's like 6'4", 285 pounds.
Right.
He's a big boy.
Right, so most of the guys that, I think the common direction has been going from doing basic diets and working really, really hard to a lot of fad things. The new diets are all like keto, or they go, it's just these extreme weird diets, if it fits your macros or whatever. And I think one of those things that you realize is that when you do any kind of extreme dieting, what it does is it tends to flatten you out, especially keto diets. People think, oh, keto's great. Keto's great for weight loss. But when you're getting contest prep, if you want to get full, like Skip, don't screw me up here. You're not a keto dieter, are you?
I am not.
So to get three-dimensional muscle bellies, you got to turn around and you got to make sure that you've got carbs in. And I think the biggest thing is that nowadays people are doing these really extreme diets, and then they go 0 carbs for 12 weeks, or they do these really extreme. And in the back in the day, and Shawn can attest to this, you would burn it off from training, okay? You know, I don't see Branch doing 0 carbs and going in there and killing the gym and tearing it up. You got to turn around and do that. Ronnie Coleman could eat KC Masterpiece because he would burn this shit off. It would come right off of him because it wouldn't matter because he's out there destroying it. And I think nowadays everybody is turning around and trying to overanalyze things, and they just don't want to work hard enough. And I'm overtraining, or I'm this, or I'm that. No, you're under eating, you're not getting enough rest, and you're not eating enough. And those are the 3 things that most people screw up on. Where in the past, you didn't think that way.
Well said. I can't add anything to that. You got another question to it?
Yeah, who's gonna be the next Mr. Olympia?
Who's going to be the next Mr. Olympia? Let's get away from Hany because he's always got skin in the game. What about you, Skip? Who do you think is going to be the next Mr. Olympia? It's wide open. For the very first time since '97, the Mr. Olympia is wide open for anyone. Ronnie Coleman won it in '98. Dorian Yates retired in '97. This year it's a vacancy. So there will be a 15th Mr. Olympia should Dexter Jackson, old man Dexter Jackson, win. Skip?
I would love to see Dexter Jackson win. All right. I don't know if I'm a real educated guess, but sentimentally, I'd love to see Dexter Jackson win.
Let's find out from the real deal. Chris, who's going to be the 2019 Mr. Olympia?
Well, Dexter is a great champ because he's been there and done that. I put him up towards the top of that class. I look for Curry, look for Rowley to take a great run at it.
So let's give some perspective. Chris is picking 50-year-old Dexter Jackson, who was 7th place last year, to leapfrog over everybody and win this year. Is that right? Branch, is that realistic?
That's realistic. I mean, who says somebody he can? He's won more shows than any pro in history and won the Olympia before, so you know all he has to do is just come in a little better than he did last year, and it's wide open.
That's who you're going with?
You know what? I don't know, man. It's I think this year is the first year I can think of. There's really not a favorite. I mean, Willie could do it. Brandon Curry, he just won the Arnold. He could do it. William Bonac he could potentially do it too. And so if I was gonna bet, I'd probably put my money on Bonac.
Okay, William Bonac.
Bonac really second, and Curry.
All right, Kris Dim.
Yeah, Branch took the word out of my mouth. I think it's Bonac. If he can keep his head together for the show, just because there's so much stuff that's going on with him right now. But if it's not Bonac, then I would pick Dexter Jackson because Dexter's looking really, really good this year again. I don't know how he pulls it off, but he always does.
Well, Dexter is getting ready to compete next weekend at the Tampa Pro Show. 5'6", maybe 240 pounds, Dexter Jackson, 49 years old. William Bonac would be the smallest Mr. Olympia since Chris Dickerson in 1982. So this year, Mr. Olympia has a whole lot of things that would maybe very new to the landscape. You got 2 questions. There's a guy behind you. You got another follow-up?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Chris he'll be around later on for free questions. Go ahead.
I got a question for Hany.
I assume that question was for Hany since you're wearing his shirt.
Yes, sir. All right, so Hany, I'm 3 weeks out for my first show for Men's Physique. And as I get closer, I get a lot of I get a lot of tips from guys about water, sodium, and carbohydrate intake. And there's a lot of different opinions on that. What's your opinion on how to manipulate all those to get the best possible look on stage?
Okay, so that's a really complicated question because you have a lot of different ways of being able to fill up and dry out. But I'm going to give you a really, really easy way to give you a kind of a little bit of reference point on what to do. The last 3 days, and I used to not even answer this question because again, I'd say get with your coach, and every coach will do it a little bit differently. And then the same coach will turn around and do it, a whole different method if it's 2 weeks apart, or if it's the same year, or if it's different years. I guarantee you, whether it's Chris, or whether it's Kris Dim, whether it's Chris Cormier, whether it's any Branch, any of the guys, you're going to change depending on what your body's doing at that given time. But for the most part, as the last several days start to get closer to the show, as you carb up, you drop water. It's an inverse, right? So that's the number one thing that most people will do is as they carb up, water comes down. As they get closer to the show, sodium comes down. Then it's up to you, your coach. I always advise people to write everything down, get a notebook, see what works for them, and then highlight where their body's at during the prep. So a week out, 6 days out, daily, with their food so that they can figure out if there was any hiccups during that prep. So when you're getting ready for the show, in how long?
3 weeks.
In 3 weeks, the last, couple of days, 5 days, daily write down your foods and take photos and see what you did that worked or didn't work so that you can go back to it. So that's what you should do. But when you're doing your carbs normally, as you carb up, you cut back your water, you taper it off, and then you start to taper your sodium, and then depending on what the plan is, you could reintroduce sodium either the night before or the day before. But again, as water is still low, because that'll help activate the carbohydrates and all the macros so that you can get fuller the night before the show, getting ready for the show the next morning. So I don't believe in crazy extremes. Some guys will go in there and do a pizza, they do that. I don't believe in that because I feel like you can get either 5% better or 20% worse. But for the most part, it's really just making sure that, hey, if you want to try something, I recommend doing it 2 weeks out and say, let me do a burger the night before this and let me see how I look. And then you can take some notes 2 weeks out and do a dry run. But that's what I normally recommend doing, taking notes, seeing what worked during the actual final stages, and then going from there.
All right, thank you.
Next question.
Hey guys, how you doing? My question is, where do you guys see bodybuilding going from now in 10 years? As you guys can see, bodybuilding is huge and it's only growing. So where do you guys see bodybuilding in the future?
Where is bodybuilding going, Branch, in the next 10 years? We've seen it evolve in the last 5 years with the inclusion of the men's classic physique, of course the men's physique, and now the women's bikini and women's physique.
The sport as a whole has grown tremendously. Back in the 90s, when I was coming up, the show had 80, 90 competitors. Wow, it's a big show. My show in Houston a few weeks ago, we had 500 competitors. So it's grown tremendously because of the other divisions. I think as a whole, the sport's going to continue to grow. They're bringing on a new division for the women in 2020, the wellness division. So I suspect that'll be another huge addition to the competitions, and it includes more people. So not everybody wants to be a 250-pound bodybuilder. Some people want more of the classic look or the men's physique look, and same thing with the women. Not every woman wants to be a bodybuilder. Some want to be a competing competitor, a figure competitor, or whatever. So the new divisions have really brought in so many more people. These events like this have gotten, these were unheard of in the 90s. So the sport as a whole has grown tremendously. I think open level men's bodybuilding though has been the one division that's suffered. I think because you have classic bodybuilding, the 212, men's physique. So you have a classic guys, for instance, you have some great physiques there. You take those guys, the top 5 at the Olympia, and put another 25, 30 pounds on them. That's your top 5 at the Open Olympia. So I think some of the best, most gifted athletes are in the classic division, and I think because of that, you don't see the depth that you used to see at the Open division at the Olympia.
Yeah, and not to mention, you don't see 17, 16-year-old athletes trying to be bodybuilders anymore.
At these lower shows, the teenage division, and these guys, they all want to be classic bodybuilders. Dude, everybody up here was a classic bodybuilder when they started. You keep training, but I don't know disrespect to the guys because I think some of those guys will eventually be great open level competitors, but it's the not big enough yet division. They still got to grow, man. To me, I knew when I started, I wanted to be Mr. Olympia, so I want to be as big as I could be. I knew what I wanted, so I think some of the guys look at the open division and they see these guys and are like, wow, I can't do that. But yeah, you can do that because we thought the same thing when we started, but if you, day by day, year by year, you can get there if you're dedicated and you have what it takes.
Yeah, I think it's changing because there's so many more choices, but it's going to continue to be inclusive. You see CrossFit, you see arm wrestling, you see the UFC type stuff. We're bringing all that stuff under one umbrella. The Mr. Olympia Weekend, coming up September 12th to the 15th in Las Vegas, pretty much has everything. The Arnold Classic started in 1989 with men's bodybuilding and women's bodybuilding. 24 athletes, 2,000 fans. This coming March in 2020, it's grown to 4 days, over 200,000 fans that come through, and 22,000 athletes participating. Generates over $40 million that weekend in Ohio. That's happened in 31 years, so we're growing. They just added the wellness division. I wanted to ask Chris, what do you think about the addition of the women's wellness division? You know what that is, first of all, the wellness division?
Yes, I know.
A lot of people are confused.
Yeah.
I want to hear from an expert.
Yes, I'm I'm intrigued with the women's wellness division. I like a thicker look, still wearing a bikini, but you know.
Hold on before you describe it. Do we all know what the women's wellness division is? You guys been brought up? One person knows, two people know. You guys want to know what it is? Go ahead, Chris. The women's wellness division is what? A little thicker?
Yes, you don't have to get to the model style of physique that they had, particularly in the bikini round. You can have a fuller body, a fuller look, more. I think it's a healthier look on from my perspective, and so the legs are a little bit thicker, the glutes and everything. You still want to have a fit midsection, but not so restricted on what your overall body type should be, because a lot of women are just naturally thicker than others. So it's a class for the thicker girls to compete.
Chris has that app, thick women with the bikinis. The girls are thick, mostly in Brazil, the Colombian girls. So he's an expert. He's a trainer of champions. All right, next question.
I got a question from Hany. Actually, Hany got qualified for Mr. Olympia in Vancouver Pro Show. So my question is that which division he's gonna compete in, 212 or open? And if open, then what place do you think he's gonna get?
The question was regarding Hany Chopin. So we did the show Hany Chopin is an Iranian bodybuilder who is been qualified in the 212 division previously, and who ended up doing the open class in Vancouver. He weighed in about 222 pounds on stage and did the open and won the open. So obviously he's qualified from Korea in the 212 by winning that, and then he's also qualified in the open division in Vancouver. Now, the biggest thing regarding Hany Chopin, the biggest question mark, is whether or not he's going to get his visa. So right now, with the Trump travel ban right now, his visa is being held at the consulate, waiting. It's been over a year that we've been trying to get his visa, and it's been really, really difficult because he's unfortunately a man that's got caught up in politics of two countries. Obviously, we don't feel that he's a national threat, but unfortunately, with the government issue, it's held back the ability to get his passport, to get his visa on his passport to be able to come here, even though it's only going to be for 4 or 5 days. So at this point right now, it's not really a matter of which division is he going to do, it's just getting him here. We're doing everything we possibly can. His visa has not been denied, it's just been held. So, they're doing an FBI background check. It's been going on for over a year, and we're just waiting literally day by day on his status. And at that point, as soon as we end up getting an approval, which we hope to get, then we can decide if we suck him down to 212 and try to go for a title, which I think he has a very good shot at, or to try to go in and possibly, see if he can mix it up and on a top 6 rank, in the
top 6. That's all you're giving him, top 6.
Well, me, I'm always conservative, but at the same time,
he could be top 3.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where again, it's not up to me. I'm not a guy in a tie, sitting in the front. For me, I'm just a matter of just helping in the process. So obviously, he's got a lot of potential. I think all the bodybuilding fans around the world would like to see him compete, and we're hoping to see him on stage in Vegas.
I hope he'll be a champion one day, right?
Absolutely. I hope he just.
Well, he is a champion.
He's a champion. It's just a matter of being able to compete against the best. It'd be great to get to him to be next to everybody else.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Hey, what's up, guys? This goes to all of y'all. I was wondering if you guys think in the next 10 years there might be a shift with all the shows in men's bodybuilding, men's physique, classic physique, and then the open. With the prize money, do you guys think in the next 10 years? Because as I walk around, I've been to the Olympia, I've been to different expos. I don't see the big monsters. I don't see any guys here, pretty much bigger than Branch Warren right now.
Branch Warren still holding it down.
Yeah, I know. Still putting everyone to shame. Do you guys think there might be a shift to where, the guys like, competing in classic physique, like, Danny and some other guys, even in men's physique, where they could, maybe not totally surpass, the prize money, in the upper 500,000, whatever, they're winning and stuff like that. But could y'all see a shift maybe in the smaller shows to where where, you know, it could be kind of equally now. You know,
Let
possibly
me
maybe
help you with that answer. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was the athletes rep after I retired. None of us control the prize money.
Yeah.
When we were on the stage, of course, we all wanted more prize money,
Of course.
right? And we'd like to see more. There has been more money infused into the sport. I mean, when I was competing against Lee Haney, Ronnie Coleman, and Dorian Yates as Mr. Olympia, I think the prize money was $100,000 for first place. Now it's $400,000, and it has been for the last 3 years. So there's more money. You're talking about the men's physique, classic physique. I mean, it's very new. Danny Hester won the very first one, and that was in 2016. So it's been, what, three years, we're going on 4 years. So in terms of dispersing the money, it's got to come from various sources of sponsorship, which we're already doing. When you look around, some of the sponsors at the Mr. Olympia, all that money kind of goes into a kitty and it gets dispersed and put in the show on, and also going to the athletes. The women this year, apparently there's going to be a huge raise for all the women. Mind you, we have women's physique, women's bikini, and women's figure, and women's fitness. There's 4 divisions. They're going to get a ton of more money compared to last year, whereas there's not going to be a raise in the men. Huge disparity in the open and the 212 and the classic, but it's all relative to how long they've been around. I mean, you take away the men's bodybuilding, which started in 1965, all those other divisions don't come up behind them, so it's slowly getting there. But you have to remember, the athletes aren't the ones that dictate the prize money. We don't have a voice in it.
And we were selling, the men's open was selling out that arena before those other divisions ever existed. So I have a feeling if those other divisions went away, that arena would still be full. So the bottom line, the men's, they've always, in sports, the best, you know, the men get paid more than women. It ain't fair, but that's just the way it is. When it goes down to economics, you know, you put it down in a magazine, it's still more than they put a girl in the magazine, a bodybuilder, women's bodybuilder. Same thing with the supplements and things. So I think it comes down to economics. As long as the men's open is selling the tickets, I think they're still going to get most of the prize money. Now, if you start to see a change in it, where people support the other divisions more, I think over time, you'll see more of a financial reward for the other divisions.
I think a good measure would be if you took the men's classic physique competition and put it in Las Vegas on its own and called it the Classic Physique Olympia. The participation numbers and the sponsorship numbers compared to the Mr. Olympia bodybuilding, it's going to be a huge disparity in terms of how much support it gets. Same with putting the women by themselves. So the men bodybuilders are still carrying the weight of the sport. Hopefully some other companies come in and infuse the money and it gets distributed better.
Thank you, guys.
How are you guys doing? I just had a quick question. This is not a bodybuilding question, but so I'm a beginner into working out, and I was wondering, how do you know whether you should walk or cut when you start working out, depending on your body type?
Well, you know, when you start working out, you want to just start working out. And you got to remember, everybody's body's a little different. So if you take a guy who's carrying a ton of body fat, you know, he's going to bulk up a little bit more, right? If you're kind of a skinny guy, you're going to put on a little bit more muscle, lean muscle mass. So it's really your body frame, and you start off with that. But I mean, if you're like, you know what, I want to bulk, then your nutrition is going to play a role with that. And then of course, training. If you're a totally just an overweight guy, you're going to basically, you know, focus on your nutrition, trying to lean down a little bit more. So it's really a preference for one, but at the same time, it's your body type too.
Yeah, and bulking up's not easy. It's easy to go to the gym every day. It's much harder to eat 6 and 7 meals a day. Am I wrong, Branch? Because you look like you never miss a meal. You only miss one? How many times a day did you eat, Chris, when you were bodybuilding at your prime and at your peak?
5 or 6.
5 or 6. How about you? 6 or 7, Chris?
When I was walking, I would do 8 meals a day. But when I had my spinal cord injury, my metabolism slows down, so I'm at 5 meals a day right now.
Which is what he's talking about, adjusting. And Skip, you're a coach. Tell us how many meals you were eating at your peak and what you're recommending now, especially your age.
Well, 8 meals is what I did when I was competing. For the men who I generally deal with, the science isn't really supporting anymore some of the things we did as far as meal frequency or meal timing. So I don't adhere to that.
I used to try to eat at 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, and 9 every 3 hours. And it wasn't because I was hungry, but it was time. Because I figured 3 hours to digest the food. But when you're working on a clock like that, it interferes with your whole day. All your activities. If you go to the beach, if you're out at the movies, trying to eat every 3 hours is a very hard thing to do. But the one that's dedicated to doing that, it's like putting deposits in the bank. The bank's getting fatter every time you're putting money in it. I'm putting these calories in my body, I'm going to be growing. But at the same time, I also have to do my running around and whatever other activities I'm involved in, and I have to sleep. And so when you're consuming all this food, you're also drinking a lot of water too. So you're running back and forth to the bathroom, taking a piss all day, and that's hard. So if you try to do that for 1 day, and then multiply that by 7 days, and then multiply it by a month, and then you've got 12 weeks of competition, that's a much harder thing to do than go to the gym every day for an hour, hour and a half. Anybody can go and lift weights, but try to get those calories in. That's hard.
I have one last question. So how do you build up your work ethic and your discipline as far as when you want to reach your goals?
I think I'll let everybody answer that because I think we're all coming from a different place in terms of work ethic. For me, I got started at 17 years old. I was introduced to sport of bodybuilding by a pro bodybuilder, 2-time Miss Universe, 3-time world, John Brown, and I kind of saw the lifestyle he was living. And he would just eat, sleep, and train, go to Germany, do seminars, make his money, and he was famous. We didn't have the internet, so I'm looking at the magazines, I'm looking at his trophy case, and I'm looking at his cars. He liked a lot of cars. He had like 3 or 4 Mercedes. But he had a passport and was going all over the world, and I was in high school exposed to that, so I got a really close look at what celebrity looked like. And then I would tag around with him, and he knew a lot of the Rams football players and Raiders. They all knew him as Mr. Universe. So I kept on going back to the fact that nobody knows him except for what he's doing in the gym. So I just kind of copied him and did what he did. And he used to beat the hell out of me. Trust me, I was never on his level, but I always put up a good fight. And I kept fighting back, and suddenly my body started to develop. And I kind of figured out how to make my way in the industry. And I think once you get a little bit of that success, and then you realize the stuff that greases the wheel, the magazine photo shoots, the fan letters, the sponsorship contracts, the level of competition that you're competing against. Remember, the guys I competed against, I can see them in a magazine, and that's enough to psych you out. When you're looking at Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, Lee Haney, LaCour, I mean, it's overwhelming, and then I gotta go to the gym and try to look like this. So, I think my motivation initially came from wanting to be like the guys that were already in a place that I wanted to be. And I could only get there through consistency of getting up, training when I didn't want to train, eating when I didn't want to eat, and doing it all over again. It's like Groundhog Day. You didn't compete at that level, so you didn't have that aspiration, or did you?
No, I didn't personally, because I always knew that I knew to stay my lane. So I was always a person that when I competed, like Skip, did the natural competitions in my 20s, and then I blew my knee out, and that was told me, like, just focus on my coaching. But when I work with people to try to get their motivation up, you gotta find, every person's different. Some people you can push harder, some people you have to kind of go on a whole different route to get them to be motivated. But the key is, once they see and taste a little bit of that success, it's to build up on that success and not worry about trying to win something. It's now you're starting to get to the point where, how does it feel no longer to be Mr. Olympia? How's that gonna feel? How empty is that gonna feel? Okay, and that's something that you gotta build on.
Now that's a great point. Now this is for you, your motivation, correct? See, you know, if you can pick out everybody's story, they just had some vision that pulled them, and it's different for everybody. Why is this important to you? And I want to say something really important is pain, getting out of pain, even in your own head. If you achieve this, do not discount whatever's going on in your head. That's going to get you out of pain. Pain is our biggest driving force. You know, going to something really positive, oh, that would be great. That helps. But if you just must, that's when you tap into your real motivation. So it's different for everybody. You got your own story. Just work with it and lean in.
Thank you, guys. I just have to say, I just got a tattoo 2 weeks ago. It says no pain, no gain as well. So, nice. You're right.
Yeah, so myself, I had a vision of being a professional at a very young age. I didn't know what it was going to be, what sport it was going to be in, but I just knew I wanted to be a professional. So I don't know if it was going to be bicycle, motocross, football, or bodybuilding or something like that, but I knew I had a drive from a very young age. I looked up to the best people I could find, the best sources of information I could get. And if I had posing lessons in LA and Los Angeles, I grew up in Palm really good, and you really want it, you have to do whatever it takes to get it.
So what motivated me was I wanted to win. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be different from everybody else. And you know, I never wanted to lose a competition because somebody outworked me. You know, you can't control who's in the show, what they look like, how they train, any of that stuff. But what I could control was my preparation. I could control my training, my nutrition, you know, my attention to detail, you know, the posing, the tanning, all these things. So I never wanted to get beat because somebody outworked me. You know, I didn't have the best quote-unquote genetics, but I did have good genetics for packing on muscle, and I could get really hard and out-condition people. So in the gym, I never wanted to lose because, you know, whoever I was competing against beat me because they trained harder than me, or they wanted it more than me. So that was something I could control. So even on days, and you know, everybody has days you get up there like, I don't want to go to the gym. You're sore, you're tired, you just don't feel like going. But that's what motivated me. So I was like, you know, if I don't go, one of the guys I'm competing against, they are going to go, and they're going to be going 100%. So if, you know, pro bodybuilding, just like any sport, if you don't give 100%, you will get beat by somebody who does.
Chris, you're one of the few guys that won the USA and the Nationals. Talk about your motivation.
You know, my motivation came a little bit different. I wanted to be the best Asian bodybuilder on the planet. And, but it didn't start off that way. I was a 98-pound wrestler. But when I did my first show, that's when I got hooked, because my wrestling coach, he was a bodybuilder. And he said, you need to do a bodybuilding show. First thing out of my mouth was, I'm not putting on this little Speedo. But once I did it one time, I got hooked. I came home with best poser, first place in overall. And from that point on, I knew that even if I was a 98-pound wrestler, I knew that I could get to where I need to get to.
So when you said you want to be the best Asian bodybuilder, who was there before you? Who were you looking at? Anybody?
Nobody.
There's no Asians up there?
Nope.
So you became the first?
Yep.
We got time for one more?
Thank you, guys.
Is that good? All right, so these guys are going to take a group photo, and after this, if you want to come up here and take a picture with them, we're all around. Mr. Olympia competition is coming to Las Vegas, September 12th to the 15th. Thank you guys for coming out.